So it looks like 2021 isn't really going to be that good of a year for gaming. I mean, there are really only two titles I'm looking forward to, one of them being Resident Evil Village, which disappointed me a lot, and Neo: The World Ends With You, a sequel that, honestly, I never thought was going to happen. Sure, the first game's great, but it's more known as a cult classic if anything. I remember when I first heard about this game just like it was yesterday. A friend of mine had drawn some fan art of Neku and posted on DeviantArt. Yeah, back in the days I used DeviantArt. Jesus Christ, I'm old. I asked her if he was an original character and she told me he was from a game called The World Ends With You, and then I just fell down a kind of a rabbit hole when it came to this game. I was looking up everything I could around what it was, if it was out, where I could get it. Especially where I could get it, because by the time I really wanted to purchase this game, it was almost impossible to find. I ended up playing a friend's copy, and a couple years later found one of my own in a GameStop just by chance, and you know I bought that sucker the second I saw it. This is just one of my favorite JRPGs. It's such a weirdly unique game with a really well told story. Its art style, writing, characters, soundtrack, everything just kind of made it stand out and gave it this charm that I just haven't seen in any other game. So, Neo: The World Ends With You has some pretty big shoes to fill, at least when it comes to fans of the original game. But in all honesty, after being disappointed quite a lot with video games that I was excited for, and knowing just how much I love the original game, I think it's unfair to judge Neo: The World Ends With You on any other basis than its own merits. And that's what I'm going to try to do here. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to fully avoid comparisons to the original game, but I'm going to try to not let that cloud my enjoyment of this game. What is Neo: The World Ends With You? Well, to put it simply, it's the sequel to The World Ends With You, a DS game that came back fucking forever ago. I'm not looking it up because I'm a professional. Don't question me. The original game was about an antisocial loner named Neku who had to learn to work with others to escape the Reaper's game, a 7-day long event where players had to compete against each other to solve riddles. Also, they can all get a second chance at life. Neo: The World Ends With You, which I'm just going to continue to refer to as Neo because I don't want to keep saying The World Ends With You all the time. Neo is about friends Rindo and Fred, who accidentally get pulled into the Ripper's game for reasons that aren't fully explained in this demo. And then just like Neku, they find themselves competing in the Reaper's game against other players in order for a second chance at life. I'm going to judge Neo on 3 bases: its style, its writing, and its combat. The style is very much in line with the first game. Very vibrant colors, very stylized character designs in both how they're drawn and what they're wearing. Everything is presented with a fixed camera angle that changes based on the part of the city you're in. All the buildings have a warped look to them, which is very much in line with the original game's art style. The main difference here being that it's all in 3D instead of 2D. As a fan of the original game, I kinda enjoy it, but I'm not sure if this translation from 2D to 3D worked out the best. There are aspects of this game where I can't tell if it was done out of artistic merit or because they were just cutting corners. Case in point, the NPC crowd characters. They don't have faces, and that's just off-putting. It was like that in the original, but that was done to compensate for the hardware limitations of the Nintendo DS. Here, it just feels like they were being cheap. Kind of the same with telling most of the story through character cutouts. And it's not that I don't like looking at the character cutouts because they're well drawn, but it does feel like this time around they're doing it to cut corners. Especially because of the hardware this game's on. I mean, it's available on Switch and PS4, which can run games like fucking Doom Eternal. It's beyond that. I know what Square Enix can do with animation in their games. So here, it just feels like they're not putting in the effort, especially because they do tease us with at least one fully animated scene in this game, and it's decently well done. I just wish there was more of it. It is something I got used to the more I played through the demo, so it's not a big deal. Again, there is a sense that they're doing it to pay homage to the original. It's just, it doesn't look as good in a 3D environment as it does in a 2D environment. For me, where they really kind of leave me iffy is the soundtrack of this game. Because, you know, on one hand, this music is very much in line with stuff you'd hear from the original game. But the thing about the music in the original game was that it was kind of there to establish TWEWY as being in a modern setting at the time, which I think it did effectively. But now you're playing music that sounds like it's from that time and not this time, because I can assure you, kids of this time are not listening to music that sounds anything like this. I mean, to be fair, I can't fully say, because this game's set in Japan. I don't know what Japanese kids listen to musically, but like, some of this stuff sounds like a 3 Days Grace knockoff. Just none of the songs really caught my attention or really, like, had me in the groove of things like they did in the original. Except for maybe the tracks that kind of call back to the original music. Like, this music kind of reeks of old people trying to select a playlist for kids, not knowing what kids are actually into and just basing their preference on what they liked as a kid. Speaking of which, I feel the same way about the writing of this game. It's very hit or miss. I found the characters to be a whole lot more miss than hit, and the dialogue, just like the music, reeks of old people trying their hardest to relate to young kids. I mean, at some point, a character says something that's essentially just a slightly modified version of, "Do you even lift, bro?"
Do you even know how to scan, bro?
A meme that's been kind of dead for years now. And I'm not going to sit there and act like I am completely in tune with what kids nowadays like. I'm in my late 20s. I'm going to be 30 in maybe like 2-3 years. I'm not fully sure. What's my age again? But I at least pay enough attention to internet trends to know when a meme is dead. This one has been dead for years. And a decent amount of the dialogue is like this. Just none of these characters really were that enjoyable when they were on screen. I just found most of them annoying. Shoka with her typical, I'm a despondent emo girl who doesn't need actual talented voice acting to portray character was just kind of obnoxious. And of course they had to bring back fucking Sho Minamoto, like the worst fucking character from the original game, and make him part of your party, because fantastic. No, like, I need you to understand, this guy is the most annoying piece of shit you will encounter in any video game ever, and for some reason they thought that this is the character we need to bring back and put in your party. With all that said, I did enjoy Rindo and Fret, the two main characters you follow throughout this demo. On their own, they're not too much. One is just kind of the knuckle-headed, energetic goofball, and the other is kind of a less antisocial version of Neku, but the dynamic between them is actually pretty entertaining. They were about the only bit of writing I legitimately enjoyed throughout the course of this game. As for the actual story itself, it's very vague at this point in time. Not a lot happens during these 2 days, and not a lot gets explained. Now, to be fair, the original game had a lot of mystery in the opening parts of its story, but it also had an immediate story hook that pulled you in. Neku, a character who hates working with people, being forced to do exactly that. It provided a scenario you wanted to see play out. That's not really so much the case here. The story this time around is just kind of like Rindo and Fret meet up and then somehow just accidentally get involved in the Reaper's game. How did they die? Who knows? Did they even die at all? Who knows? There's just nothing about it yet that has pulled me in and made me interested to see how things play out. Whereas like by the second day of the first game, I was like sucked into the story. Like I needed to know how this ended. Here, it takes them 2 days to figure out that the enemies they've been fighting drop pins and that they should be picking up those pins. But ultimately, I'm not going to give the story too much crap here because it is just a demo and who knows what the full story will present. By the end of the full game, I may very much love it, so we'll just leave that there for now. So that just leaves gameplay, and I'm just gonna say it, I think they nail it here. If the style and the writing are leaving me iffy, this is the part of the game that has me fully excited. So for obvious reasons, the combat system here is a lot different from the original game, and yet it's built off of a lot of the same fundamentals. You equip pins to your characters, and these pins act as your abilities in combat. You have some basic ones that allow you to do stuff like unleash a combo of slashes or shoot projectiles, but then you have some more powerful ones like the ability to do a dash kick or drop a rock on an enemy or summon a giant arrow that knocks enemies up. The main difference here being that instead of equipping all your pins to Neku and the other character being controlled by the D-pad, now you equip a pin to each one of your characters and they will be the ones who pull off that attack. That leads into the other main difference, and that is instead of controlling two characters between two screens, you now control a whole party on just one screen, with you taking control of the character whose attack you use last. But where this combat truly shines for me is in the groove system, something that was kinda in the first game but is reworked here to much greater effect in my opinion. In the original, you alternated between using the two characters to pass a puck along each other that would grant you attack bonuses. Here, you alternate between using your different attacks to create combos that then build up your groove meter, doing which then unlocks a special attack that does massive damage. The idea here is to attack with one character until you see a prompt that says drop the beat, and then come in with another character to then capitalize on that. And to me, this is the part of the combat that I enjoyed the most because it encourages experimentation, equipping different pins, seeing what does and doesn't combo well, and learning how to efficiently combo moves together while keeping all my characters out of danger is what made this combat so exciting. And I really don't got too much more to say on it other than that, because it's just like, they don't give you a whole lot of pins to work with, but the ones they do are fun to play around with and again combo together. And it just makes me excited for the full game to see the full range of pins and pin abilities and how I can just create fun combinations with them. That aspect alone has me so excited for this game. So yeah, that was my thoughts on Neo The World Ends With You. Though it does leave me a bit iffy on its style and writing, its combat I think is really enjoyable. And I mean with the art style, I'm sure it's something that I'll get accustomed to the more I play the game. And my hope for the story, at the very least, is that I'm entertained by the end of it. I'm not expecting it to blow me out of the water like the original game story did, as long as it's ultimately enjoyable. And there's nothing here that greatly indicates that I'll hate it. Again, it just doesn't have that initial hook that the original game had. But hey, the game comes out in less than a month, so we'll see soon enough just how it turns out. If you like this video, make sure to comment, subscribe, and leave a like. And I hope to see you next time. Until then though, I'm gonna go play in traffic. See you later!